If your fruit trees look sick every year, with curled leaves, sticky young shoots, green aphids packed under the leaves, and ants marching up the trunk like they own the place, the problem may not be the spray you are using. The real problem is that you may be fighting the wrong battle. You spray the aphids, they disappear for a few days, then they come right back. You try to stop the ants, but the aphids are still there, quietly feeding on the soft new growth. And before you know it, your garden is stuck in the same tiring cycle again. More sprays, more money, more frustration, and the tree keeps getting weaker. In today's video, Quiet Growth Lab will show you 7 natural ways to deal with aphids and ants without turning your garden into a chemical battlefield. But pay close attention, because one of these methods is so simple that most gardeners overlook it. Yet you can often see the first change within 24 hours. Once you understand what ants are really doing for aphids, you stop chasing little colonies one by one. You start breaking the system that is draining your tree from the inside out. A lot of gardeners are doing their best. They water the tree, they feed the soil, they prune the branches. They wait patiently for flowers, fruit, and healthy new growth. But then they walk up to the tree and see something completely different. The young leaves are curled tight. The tender shoots feel sticky, and under the leaves there are tiny aphids crowded together, sucking sap from the tree like a hidden leak. That is already bad enough. But then you notice the ants. They are not just passing by. They are not there by accident. They are part of the problem. Ants protect aphids because aphids produce a sweet, sticky liquid that ants love. So the ants guard them, move them to fresh shoots, and chase away the helpful insects that would normally eat them. This is why spraying aphids often gives only short relief. You may knock the aphids down today, but if the ants are still climbing the tree tomorrow, they can help the colony rebuild. That is why so many people feel like nothing works. They are only treating what they can see. The real lesson is simple. You cannot solve this by fighting aphids alone, and you cannot solve it by fighting ants alone. If you want the tree to recover, you have to break the partnership between them. Once that connection is broken, the whole situation starts to change. The tree gets breathing room. Natural predators can finally do their job, and you stop wasting energy on the same problem every season. To really fix this problem, you first have to understand what is happening on your tree. Aphids are not just sitting there by accident. They are feeding. They use a tiny needle-like mouthpart to pierce the soft tissue of young leaves and tender shoots. Then they suck out the sap the tree needs to grow. That sap is full of sugar, but aphids cannot use all of it. So they release the extra sugar as a sticky liquid called honeydew. And that honeydew is the reason ants show up. To ants, it is like free candy dripping from the tree. So they protect the aphids the same way a farmer protects a herd. They guard them. They move them to fresh, soft growth. They chase away ladybugs, lacewing larvae, and other helpful insects that would normally keep aphids under control. That is the part many gardeners miss. The ants are not just walking on the trunk. They are running a whole little farming operation. And the damage adds up fast. The leaves curl. The new shoots stop growing. The sticky honeydew coats the leaves, and then black mold starts growing on top of it. Once that happens, sunlight cannot reach the leaf surface the way it should. The tree cannot make food properly. It gets weaker. It becomes easier for disease to move in. It may produce less fruit. It may struggle more in heat, drought, or cold weather. And every season, the same thing comes back because the real system was never broken. That is why one quick spray usually does not solve anything. You may kill some aphids today, but if the ants are still protecting the rest, the colony can rebuild. They can bring aphids back to the tender tips again and again. So if you want to win this fight, you have to stop thinking like someone just trying to kill bugs. You have to think like a gardener who understands the whole chain. The goal is not only to remove the aphids you can see. The goal is to take away their protection. Once the ants can no longer guard them, nature has a chance to step in. Ladybugs can feed. Lacewing larvae can hunt. The tree can finally breathe again. And that is when the garden starts to turn around. One of the best long-term ways to fight aphids is not to fight them alone. Let nature help you. A healthy garden already has its own pest control system, but a lot of us accidentally chase that system away. We spray too much. We clean too much. We make the garden look neat, but we also remove the good insects that were supposed to protect the trees. So the first strategy is simple. Make your garden a place where helpful insects want to live. Most people know ladybugs eat aphids, but here is the part many gardeners miss. The adult ladybug is helpful, but the real aphid hunter is the ladybug larva. It does not look cute at all. It looks more like a tiny gray alligator with orange spots. The first time you see one, you might think it is a pest and want to remove it. Do not do that. That little creature can eat a surprising number of aphids in a single day. It moves across the leaf like it has one job, and that job is to clean up the colony. And ladybugs are not the only helpers. Lacewing larvae are also excellent aphid hunters. Some gardeners call them aphid lions, and that name fits. They are small, but they are serious predators. Hoverfly larvae help too. Adult hoverflies may look a little like tiny wasps, but they do not act like wasps. They visit flowers, and their larvae hunt aphids on the leaves. Then there are tiny parasitic wasps. They do not bother people, but they are bad news for aphids. They lay eggs inside aphids, and the aphids turn into dry little brown shells. If you ever see those on your leaves, it means your garden's hidden army is already working. But these good insects will not stay if the garden gives them nothing to eat and nowhere to hide. They need small flowers with nectar. That is why plants like dill, cilantro, buckwheat, phacelia, daisies, and marigolds are so useful around fruit trees. They do not just make the garden look pretty. They feed the adult beneficial insects so they can stay, breed, and keep working for you. A few patches near the trees, along the rows, or around the edges of the garden can make a real difference. And at the end of the season, try not to scrub the whole garden clean like a kitchen counter. I know it feels good to clear everything away, but if you remove every dry stem, every leaf pile, and every bit of shelter, you also remove winter homes for the insects you need next spring. Leave a small brush pile in a quiet corner. Keep a few hollow stems. You can even make a simple insect hotel from old wood, bamboo, or dry stems tied together. It does not have to look fancy. It just needs to give beneficial insects a safe place to overwinter. This method will not wipe out aphids overnight. It is not that kind of trick, but it changes the garden over time. Instead of you doing all the work with sprays, the garden begins to defend itself. When aphids show up in spring, their enemies are already nearby. That is how you build a stronger, more balanced orchard. Not by killing everything, but by giving the right insects a reason to stay. Aphids and ants do not find your trees the way we do. They are not looking around and thinking, "That apple tree looks good." They follow smell. Tiny chemical signals lead them to soft new growth, sweet sap, and the places where they can feed. So one smart thing you can do is make that signal harder to follow. Think of it like putting a scent shield around your fruit trees. Plants like basil, lavender, peppermint, marigolds, garlic, wormwood, and white mustard can help confuse pests. Their strong smells make it harder for ants to keep their trail and harder for aphids to settle in comfortably. You do not need to turn the whole orchard into an herb garden. Just planting some of these around the base of your trees or in small patches nearby can start changing the environment. But protective plants are only one part of it. The tree itself has to be strong. That matters more than most people think. A healthy tree can handle pressure much better than a stressed tree. And one of the biggest mistakes is giving too much nitrogen. When a tree gets pushed too hard with nitrogen fertilizer, it grows fast. But the new shoots are often soft, watery, and weak. To aphids, that is perfect food. Those tender leaves are easy to pierce, and the colony can build up quickly. So do not overfeed the tree just because you want fast growth. Balanced feeding is better. You want steady growth, not soft growth that turns into an aphid buffet. Pruning also makes a big difference. Aphids love crowded trees. When the canopy is too thick, air does not move well. Sunlight cannot reach the inner branches. Moisture hangs around longer. That kind of warm, damp, shaded space is exactly where pests and fungal problems feel comfortable. When you thin the tree properly, you let light and air move through it. The leaves dry faster after rain or morning dew. The tree breathes better, and the whole place becomes less friendly to aphids. Then there is mulch. A good layer of grass clippings, straw, or wood chips around the tree can help keep moisture in the soil and reduce stress during dry weather. A less stressed tree is less attractive to pests. Mulch can also make it harder for ants to move freely around the base, especially when you combine it with other barriers. None of this is flashy. It does not feel like a magic trick, but this is the kind of quiet work that changes the garden over time. Stronger trees, better airflow, confusing smells, less stress, and fewer easy openings for aphids and ants to take over. Sometimes the aphids get ahead of you. You check the tree one morning, and the soft new shoots are already covered. At that point, waiting for ladybugs and lacewings to handle everything may not be enough. Nature can help, but it may need time. And when the colony is growing fast, the tree does not always have that time. This is when a biological spray can be useful. Not a harsh chemical spray that wipes out everything in the garden, but a more targeted product made from natural biological compounds. One example is an ivermectin-based spray. It works on the nervous system of soft-bodied pests like aphids. Once the aphids come into contact with it, or feed on treated leaves, they stop eating after a few hours. Then they die over the next couple of days. The good thing about this kind of treatment is that it breaks down fairly quickly in sunlight. It does not sit on the fruit for a long time like some stronger chemicals can. When used correctly, it is also much gentler on the garden as a whole. That matters because you do not want to kill the very insects that are helping you. But here is where a lot of gardeners make mistakes. Biological sprays are not magic. They only work well when the conditions are right. First, the weather has to be warm enough. If it is too cold, the spray may barely work at all. A good rule is to use it when the temperature is at least around 64 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. It works even better around 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius. Warm weather makes the treatment much more effective. Second, you have to spray where the aphids actually are, and most of the time they are hiding on the underside of the leaves and around the tender new tip. If you only missed the top of the tree and walk away, you may miss the colony almost completely. You need to aim from below and wet the infected areas well, not just a light spray in the air. The solution has to reach the aphids. Third, you usually need to repeat the treatment. This is a big one. Many biological sprays do not destroy aphid eggs. They work on the active insects. So after 5 to 7 days, a new batch can hatch. If you only spray once, feel good for a few days, and then stop, the problem can come right back. For a heavy outbreak, plan on at least 2 rounds, and sometimes 3, spaced about a week apart. This method is not the whole solution. Think of it as a way to knock the aphid population down fast. It gives the tree a break. It gives beneficial insects a chance to catch up. But it still works best when you combine it with barriers against ants, better pruning, companion plants, and regular checks. That is how you stop treating the same outbreak over and over again. One of the fastest ways to break the aphid problem is to stop the ants from climbing the tree. It sounds almost too simple, but it works because ants are the bodyguards. As long as they can walk up the trunk, they can protect the aphids, move them to fresh growth, and keep the whole problem going. But when you block that path, everything changes. The aphids are suddenly exposed. Ladybugs can reach them. Lacewing larvae can hunt them. The natural predators you worked so hard to attract finally get a fair chance. A sticky band is one of the easiest ways to do this. You wrap a band around the trunk and use a special sticky insect glue to trap the ants before they reach the branches. But there is one mistake you should never make. Do not put the glue directly on the bark. I know it looks easier. Just smear it on and be done. But that can damage the tree, especially a young one. Some glues can burn the bark or harm the living layer underneath. Once that layer is injured, the tree can suffer badly. So always use a backing first. You can use burlap, thick cotton cloth, or another soft wrapping material. Pick a smooth part of the trunk, usually about 20 to 24 inches above the ground. Before you wrap it, gently clean away loose bark flakes, because ants are smart. If there is a tiny gap under the band, they will find it. Wrap the cloth snugly around the trunk, tie it at the top and bottom, and then put the sticky glue on the outside of that cloth. That way the glue catches the ants, but it never touches the bark. The first time you use this, you may be surprised how much traffic was going up that tree. You will see ants reach the band, stop, turn around, or get stuck. And once they cannot reach the canopy, the aphid colony loses its protection. That is when the real cleanup begins. There is also a cheaper barrier you can make with aluminum foil. Wrap a wide strip around the trunk and shape it like an upside-down skirt or little umbrella. The top edge should sit snug against the bark, and the lower edge should flare outward and downward. Ants crawl up, hit that slippery surface, and struggle to get past it. Many simply fall back down. It is not fancy, but it can help, especially when you combine it with other methods. The key is maintenance. A sticky band is not something you set once and forget. Dust, dry leaves, dead insects, and rain can weaken it over time. Check it regularly. Refresh the glue when it gets dirty. Make sure no weeds, grass, or low branches are giving ants a bridge around the barrier. This small step can save you a lot of trouble, because once the ants are cut off, the whole aphid system starts to fall apart. Blocking ants from climbing the tree is a strong move, but it is still mostly defense. If you want less pressure over the long run, you also have to look at where the ants are coming from. Many times, the real source is right there in the soil, under a walkway, near the edge of the garden, or somewhere close to the fruit trees. And if that colony stays strong, the ants will keep trying to find a way back up. Now, some old methods can work, but you have to be careful. Boiling water can destroy an ant nest if the nest is far away from your trees. But do not pour boiling water around the base of a fruit tree. That can damage the fine feeder roots. And those small roots are what help the tree take in water and nutrients. You might hurt the tree more than the ants. Quicklime is another harsh method some gardeners talk about, but it is risky, dangerous to handle, and not something I would use near roots or in a home orchard unless you really know what you are doing. A softer and smarter method is a sweet bait with boric acid. The idea is simple. You mix a little sugar or old jam with warm water to make a sweet syrup, then add a small amount of boric acid. Put that bait in shallow bottle caps or small containers near the ant trails, not where bees, pets, or kids can reach it. It also helps to cover the bait with a small piece of wood, tile, or something similar, so rain does not wash it away and other insects do not get into it. The reason this works is that it does not kill the worker ants right away. That is the whole point. The workers take the sweet bait back into the nest. They share it with the rest of the colony. They may even feed it to the queen. Once the queen is weakened or dies, the whole colony starts to collapse. That is much better than just killing a few ants walking on the surface. You can also use dry wood ash around ant nests or trails. Ash is alkaline, and ants do not like walking through it. It can irritate them and disturb the scent trails they use to communicate. When those scent trails get broken, the colony becomes confused. Sometimes they move out simply because the area no longer feels safe or comfortable. Strong smells can help too. Peppermint, lavender, fir, and similar oils can interrupt ant trails. You can soak sawdust or small pieces of cloth with these scents and place them near the nest or around areas where ants keep traveling. It may not destroy the colony, but it can push them away from your fruit trees. And that is the goal here. You do not always need to wipe out every ant in the yard. Ants do have a place in nature, but you do not want them farming aphids on your apple, pear, plum, or cherry trees. So focus on moving them away, weakening the nests that are too close, and cutting their access to the canopy. Once the ants lose control of the tree, the aphids lose their protection. And that is when the whole pest problem becomes much easier to manage. Sometimes you catch the problem late. You walk out to the garden, look at the young shoots, and the aphids are already packed in. The leaves are curled. The tips feel sticky. Ants are moving around like they have been managing the place for weeks. At that point, you need to treat the canopy directly. You are not just preventing anymore. You are trying to bring the numbers down fast, so the tree can get a break. One of the simplest ways to do that is with a soap solution. But do not use fancy hand soap, scented body wash, or anything made for skin care. You want plain laundry soap or tar soap. The old-fashioned kind works better for this job. Aphids have a thin, waxy layer on their bodies that helps keep them from drying out. Soapy water breaks down that layer. Then, as the spray dries, it can also block the tiny breathing openings on their bodies. The aphids weaken, dry out, and die. It is simple, but it can be very effective when you spray properly. A basic mix from the original method is about 300 grams of laundry soap dissolved into 10 liters of warm water. For American measurements, that is roughly 10 ounces of soap in about 2.5 gallons of water. Grate the soap first so it dissolves easier. Then spray the infected shoots well, especially the underside of the leaves. That is where aphids love to hide. A light mist over the top will not do much. You need to reach the colony. If the outbreak is heavier, you can use an ash and soap solution. Wood ash contains alkaline compounds, and when it is prepared in water and mixed with soap, it gives a stronger effect. The ash helps make the surface less friendly for aphids, and the soap helps the mixture stick. This is not something you spray carelessly every day, but when aphids are thick, it can help knock them back. The video also mentions an ammonia solution. This one has two effects. The strong smell can disturb ants and aphids, and the nitrogen in ammonia can act like a quick foliar feed for damaged leaves. But this needs to be diluted correctly. More is not better. Too much can burn leaves or stress the tree, so measure carefully and use it only when needed. Another option is a weak vinegar solution. Vinegar changes the surface environment and can repel ants while making life harder for aphids. Again, the key is dilution. You are not trying to soak the tree in acid. You are using a mild solution to make the canopy less comfortable for pests. The original method also mentions a potassium permanganate solution mixed to a deep pink color, not dark purple or black. If crystals are not fully dissolved, they can burn the leaves, so this one needs extra care. No matter which quick treatment you use, timing matters. Do not spray in the middle of a hot sunny day. That is one of the easiest ways to damage leaves. The droplets can sit on the surface, the sun heats everything up, and the tender new growth can burn. Spray early in the morning or in the evening when the sun is low. Also, remember that homemade sprays do not last forever. Rain can wash them off. Heavy dew can weaken them. New aphids can hatch. So after a rain, check the tree again. Look under the leaves. Look at the new shoots. If the colony is coming back, repeat the treatment carefully. This is not meant to replace the bigger plan. Think of it as emergency help. It buys time. It lowers the pressure. It gives the tree room to recover. But for lasting control, you still need to block the ants, bring in beneficial insects, keep the tree healthy, and check the garden before the problem explodes again. The biggest lesson here is simple. There is no single magic trick that fixes aphids and ants forever. I wish there were. It would be nice to spray one thing, walk away, and never see curled leaves again. But fruit trees do not work that way. A healthy orchard needs timing. It needs small steps done at the right moment. If you stay ahead of the problem, you do not have to fight a disaster later. Start in early spring, before the buds open. This is when many gardeners are not thinking about aphids yet, but the ants are already getting ready. As soon as the weather starts warming up and the tree is still bare, put sticky bands or barriers around the trunks. Do it before ants begin moving aphids into the canopy. That one step can save you a lot of trouble later. At the same time, you can sow helpful plants around the tree. Dill, cilantro, marigolds, mustard, and other small flowering plants can help confuse pests and attract beneficial insects before aphids get out of control. Then, when the first young leaves appear, check them closely. Do not just look at the top of the leaves. Turn them over. Look at the soft tips. That is where the first aphid colonies usually start. If you find a small cluster early, deal with it right away. You can crush it with gloved fingers, rinse it off, or cut off the infected tip if needed. It may feel like a small thing, but catching one little colony early can stop hundreds more from showing up later. During summer, make garden checks part of your routine. Once a week is enough for most home orchards. Walk around slowly. Look under the leaves. Watch the trunk for ant trails. Check your sticky bands. If they are covered with dust, dead insects, or dry leaves, refresh them. Keep tall grass and weeds away from the trunk, because ants can use them like little bridges to get around your barrier. Keep the mulch in place too. It helps the soil hold moisture, keeps the tree less stressed, and supports steady growth. If you see a new aphid outbreak, use a soap spray, ash solution, or another mild treatment before the colony spreads. Fall is when you set up next year's success. After harvest, clean up fallen fruit. Remove badly diseased leaves. If it makes sense for your soil and your tree, lightly work the area around the base to expose overwintering pests. Take off old sticky bands and throw them away, or burn them if that is safe where you live. Do not leave them on through winter. Old bands can become hiding places for pests, which is the opposite of what you want. Late fall is also a good time to prune. Remove dead branches, rubbing branches, and useless shoots that crowd the canopy. You want the tree open enough for air and sunlight to move through it next spring. Aphids like soft growth, shade, and still air. A clean, open tree is harder for them to take over. So think of this as a yearly rhythm, not a one-time job. Spring is for prevention. Summer is for checking and quick action. Fall is for cleanup and preparation. When you follow that rhythm, You stop reacting in panic. You start managing the orchard calmly. And over time, the trees become stronger, the aphid outbreaks become smaller, and the ants no longer run the show. The biggest thing to remember is this: aphids are not working alone. If you only look at the aphids, you are missing half the problem. The ants are the reason they keep coming back. They protect them, they move them, they help the colony survive. So when you spray the aphids but leave the ants alone, the relief usually does not last. The tree may look better for a few days, but then the same curled leaves and sticky shoots show up again. On the other hand, if you only disturb the ant nest but do nothing about the aphids already feeding on the tree, the problem can still restart. That is why the best approach is layered. Bring in beneficial insects, plant strong-smelling herbs and flowers, keep the canopy open with good pruning, use biological sprays when the outbreak gets too heavy, block ants from climbing the trunk, deal with ant nests near the trees, and most importantly, check your orchard through the season. This is how you stop living in emergency mode. You are no longer running outside every time the leaves curl and wondering what went wrong. You are building a garden that can defend itself better. You do not need to reach for harsh chemicals first. You need to understand the pattern, act early, and keep the pressure on the pests before they take over. Here is what I would do first. Walk out to your fruit trees and check the new growth. Look under the young leaves, not just on top. Aphids like to hide where the tissue is soft and easy to feed on. If you see only a small cluster, handle it right away. Put on gloves and crush them gently, rinse them off, or cut off the damaged tip if the branch can spare it. Do not wait until the whole tree is covered. Next, look at the trunk. If you see ants marching up and down in a steady line, that is a sign they are protecting something above. Put on a sticky band or another physical barrier to cut off their path. Then check around the base of the tree for ant nests or heavy ant trails. If the nest is too close, use a controlled sweet bait or a safe repellent method. Be careful not to damage the roots. After that, start adding helper plants around the orchard. Marigolds, dill, cilantro, peppermint, lavender, and similar plants can attract beneficial insects and confuse pests. Finally, make this a weekly habit. One slow walk through the garden each week can save you from a big outbreak later. A small aphid colony is easy to stop. A tree full of curled leaves is much harder. The earlier you act, the less work you will have to do. At the end of the day, you do not beat aphids and ants with one bottle of spray. That might give you a short break, but it will not fix the real problem. The real change comes when you slow down, watch what is happening, and work with a plan. Once you understand that ants are protecting aphids, the whole picture becomes clearer. You stop chasing the same little colonies every week. You start cutting off the ants, lowering the aphid pressure, bringing helpful insects back into the garden, and giving the tree a real chance to recover. So start small today. Go outside and check the underside of the leaves. Look at the soft, new shoots. Watch the trunk and see if ants are moving up and down in a steady line. Then choose just one of these 7 methods and use it. You do not have to fix the whole orchard in one afternoon. One good step, done at the right time, can change a lot. And if you have already tried a method that worked for you, share it in the comments. Your experience may help another gardener save a tree this season. If you want more simple, natural, and low-cost gardening ideas from Quiet Growth Lab, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next video. Thank you for staying with me until the end. I hope your trees grow stronger, your fruit sets better, and your garden becomes a place that feels easier to manage every year. Take care of your plants, keep learning from the garden, and I will see you in the next video.